Hi, everyone, and welcome back. My name's Caitlin, and today we're going to be doing Debossed Stars and make it into a fun birthday card. I am actually using the string art stars, and we're going to be making the impressions of them onto the card. So there won't actually be any holes in the paper that there normally would be, so that you could do string art. I really wanted to keep with the Altenew product since this is one of my cards for the Altenew educator course program, and I really wanted to use stars, so I figured we'd just go ahead and stretch our supplies a little bit and put it to use. Now, here, the tan pad that I just used was the embossing pad for the Anna Griffin die cut machine. I had used EZC tape, which I do a lot of times with die cuts, but I learned that it really sticks to the paper when you do the embossing pad. So I recommend just doing low tack tape instead of that consistency of tape. Um, you'll see that I went ahead and tried it again and I still got the same results. So just save yourself the time and energy and just do low tack tape to begin with. Now, it is a little bit hard to see right here just because we're using white paper, but it will pop more once we ink blend some color onto the paper. And here you will see it's really stuck. So one of the things that you can do when you kind of get too much of residue on the paper from tape is just rub it off with your fingers. You're not going to damage the paper, just the easiest way to go ahead and get it off. And now we are going to use the Hip Hooray stamp set from Altenew. I wanted to go ahead and place the stamp, kind of get an idea of where I wanted it. I wanted to make sure there was no stars in that area. So now I'm placing the stars around it to do the last little bit. And here I am using low tack tape. This one's called Mint Tape. It's from scrapbook.com. It's really the only low tack tape I've experimented with. So I'm just using it because that's what I have and it seems to work just fine. So just know that with low tack tape, it isn't going to hold on to things as well. So it's, I mean, it still works and I like using it for ink blending and things like that. So, all right. And we're going to go ahead and do our final pass through. And there we have it, all the star impressions. And you can see the tape comes off really nicely there. So much easier than the EZC, and it doesn't leave any residue. So I'm always appreciative of that because no one likes having to rub off the residue. So, and I felt like it needed just a little bit more, one more. So we'll go ahead and run that through real quick. And then we will move on to ink blending. Now, I'm fairly new at the whole recording as you go process, but some of the things I've quickly learned is that I upgraded my grid mat to a non-glass one. Catches way less glare, and the Altenew one is fairly big, so I'm appreciative of that. And then here, I use my Waffle flower stencil mat whenever I'm doing ink blending because, yet again, you don't have to worry about a glare when recording, so I'm always appreciative of that. And here we're using Sea Breeze Altenew ink with the large Altenew blending brush. I just got these blending brushes and they make life so much easier for doing big areas like this. Takes way less time. So I'm super appreciative of that because the less time it takes, the less harsh it is on your wrists also. So my joints are fairly weak. So anything to kind of take some of the tedious movement out is a win for me. So here we are adding Citrus Burst. It's Altenew also. I thought that, the brighter colors would be fun and then the yellow and blue together would kind of make a lime green, but still have three colors with only doing the work of two. So I really liked that idea and you can see the stars are really starting to pop as the colors going over it. And, you know, I think it's always good to find different ways to use your products that you wouldn't have necessarily thought about. So I And then I'm just going back through it and making sure the blue's still really there. I don't want to lose the blue too much. So, oh, and then here I realized that I must have one with the residue and the tape, and then the ink blending didn't help it. But you can see that it kind of got ruined. I tried seeing maybe I could get it wet and see if that got it better, or maybe the sand eraser, or just straight up add some more ink to it, and it did not. So when that happens, I tried to see if maybe I could cover it up, but it it was one of those things that cutting it off was going to be the best solution. And sometimes that's just the case, and that's okay. You're just gonna make it work. And at the end of the day, I think it actually turned out better than it would have. This pushed me to have a border around the two sides. So, and then the ink was a little bit rough on the top. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim that down. Don't be afraid to change your design as you go. I quickly learned that my Hip Hip Hooray stamp had some fuzz on it. So I like to use the Hero Arts Double Scrubber whenever that happens to kind of get rid of it, along with some stamp cleaner. Here I am doing a technique that you can find on Jennifer McGuire's YouTube channel where you make a template for your die cut sentiment strips, and then you stamp the paper and you get it the same every time. Makes life a lot easier. You just die cut the shape out of a piece of laminate paper and you're good to go. So now we're going to go ahead and trim it down, and we will glue 3 layers to the back of this Hip Hip Hooray. So there will be a total of 4 layers, and some of them are going to be scrap pieces from whatever I tried beforehand, and it just looked a little too fuzzy. I always seem to get fuzz from the gloss on my stamps, so you will see sometimes that I try to just wipe off the stamp with paper or go to my double scrubber, depending. I seem to have more problems with it when it's smaller letters. But if you have a cloth that really works for you and you don't get fuzz, please let me know and maybe it'll work for me. Here I'm continuing to glue the pieces. I am a big fan of liquid glue because it is very, very forgiving, and I need all the forgiveness that I can get when I am crafting. I'm just being honest, y'all. So I tend to make more mistakes than I should, but it's all a part of my process and I enjoy making the cards. So that's really all that matters at the end of the day. And now we are going to go ahead and move on to placement. This is the part I always get a little nervous at because you don't want to mess it up in the final steps. But thankfully, liquid glue does let me wiggle it around if I need to. So I thought it would be fun to have a vertical fold rather than the typical horizontal. So I felt like it would, because you remember we have to do the borders on the side now, and I felt like the white made it pop more. So I went ahead and went with white rather than the colors. I gluing it on with more Barely Art liquid glue, and then that's it. We will have our card good to go. And I just want to thank all of y'all for watching along, and I hope that you guys got some fun ideas to go ahead and try out yourselves. And don't forget to let me know what you think down below in the comments. And if you want to see the upcoming videos coming up next, make sure you subscribe.